Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Over Your New Reader. 2 nights in a row. Very exciting. I'm here with two of my best friends in the entire world. Jessica, who you may have seen in the chat, but now is here in real life. I met Jessica in the chat and then proceeded to track her down and make her my friend. Because I have no chill. And of course, my platonic soulmate, Kristen, aka the Comic Slayer. Thank you both for coming. And Jessica, thank you for being on the show for the first time.
Yes, thank you so much. And I went willingly into your trap. Thank you.
Yay!
For the record.
For the record.
Oh yeah, today we're going to see the history of making first appearance of Jessica. Yeah. After every time she's in the chat, I'm like, look, there's Jessica. I will highlight her comments all the time. People are like,
we were talking about you before she did it.
Of course I'm playing favoritism. And James, we're glad you're here. I feel like, James, you're the one constant in my life sometimes.
We appreciate you.
No matter what, I know that you're going to be there. Other people may fail me, but you're not going to, James. And I appreciate that. We put up a Patreon vote for different like Valentine, like romantic theme things. And the first thing that came to mind for me was Green Arrow, Black Canary, which ended up being voted for. Because I was trying to think of like big couples, which in hindsight, I'm like, oh yeah, I could have done some Superman Lois thing. But this is what I chose. And this is what Patreon voted for over a couple other books as well. Like I know we put in Rogue and Gambit. This is what came through. Yeah, hashtag best friends. Hey there. And so we read the first 14 issues as well as like the wedding issue of Green Arrow Black Canary. This is by Judd Winnick, who's one of my favorite writers. The wedding issue is illustrated by Amanda Connor, and the rest is by Cliff Chang. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, so this is one of like Kristen's first forays into this big old group, which will be interesting because it definitely is not exactly it is new reader friendly, but also not, because there's a lot happening here, a lot of characters that are already developed. This is not like a new Green Arrow where you're kind of just getting the face. The whole Green Arrow family is already there, and some of those people don't even exist right now in the current canon. Like I think Green Arrow remembers Connor, and that's about it. But like Mia, aka Speedy, I don't think that's the same one, right? She's not Arrowette, right? Somebody in the chat can tell me because I don't know.
She became Speedy during Winnick's run on Green Arrow. I think that she got that mantle when Winnick took over Green Arrow.
Like Maggie needed a reason to possibly see her husband, Rory Harper, again. Rory Harper's not in this a lot. Surprisingly, he's there, he's in the background, but he is not a main face, which is unfortunate for me personally. But I'm still happy to see Ollie. I do love him, and I do love Dinah, and I love having the superhero family hang out together. That makes me happy. Over Your New Reader with iconic guests 2 days in a row, epic, absolutely.
Hate him.
And I was having a day, and I talked to Elliot earlier. I was like, I'm going to have a show with Jessica and Kristen, and it's going to make my day better. And already it has. So, to start this off, I guess we should do like a quick, like, sort of summary-esque. We will have some spoilers in here. Granted, there's a lot happening. Also, this came out like a bajillion years ago. And by a bajillion, not that long ago.
Yeah.
But it came out a bit ago. This is pre-New 52. When they wiped, after which they wiped, all of Ollie and Dinah's relationship off the map.
When did it come out? Do you know the year?
I have the Wikipedia open. 2007.
Okay. It had 2000 vibes, early 2000.
Oh, very, very much so. Absolutely. So at the beginning, it starts off with Ollie and Dinah's wedding. Their very superhero wedding. So everyone anyone in the superhero community is there, pretty much. Even people that they don't actually care about being there, which inevitably ruins it. But of course, superhero shenanigans happen. Ollie is like portaled out of existence and replaced with somebody else to look like Ollie. And then they think he's dead because Dinah has to kill him. So they have this whole thing afterwards with, her finding him, and then they have to get married again, but then something happens to his son. It's a back and forth trying to figure stuff out. And of course, there's a ton of appearances with the rest of the Justice League and some big name villains showing, in and out, like the, League of Assassins, and a whole bunch of other people. That is the quick kind of summary.
The quick and dirty?
The quick and dirty.
The quick and dirty.
Yep. Thank you for knowing my really dumb tagline. But I figure we just get into it. I'd really love to hear first thoughts, Jessica, and I know you've read this before. This is my first time reading. And for Kristen, who's like a newer to DC, there's probably a lot of people in here that you don't know that well. So I'm sure this is a lot to throw at you. So I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Kristen, I don't know if I should start with Jessica as far as like reread thoughts. We prefer that, but
I'd like to listen to Jessica first.
All right,
okay.
Here we go.
So it's sweet then sour, not sour then sweet today. Okay, fair enough.
Let's do it.
Yeah, this was actually one of the very first things I picked up on my own when I was getting into comics. I think I had read like Quiver, which I think you did on the show, maybe. Kevin Smith. So
which I love. I did like that one a lot.
Yeah, and it goes Smith, Meltzer, and then Winnick. And so this comes out of like Winnick's Green Arrow run. So I just kind of read through it that way. So I did have pretty good context by the time I got to this. I love. What can I say? I love wedding issues and like themed things. So when I got to this, I like the cameos alone were a great way to start this series. And I had enough foundation for like when they send the wedding invites. I think one of my favorite things is watching each individual person react to getting theirs and the comments they make.
Like that it's never going to work. Or Batman be like, I'm not going. And even Wonder Woman would be like, you can't marry another super person.
Yes. Yeah, I loved that. So I liked that. And I would say we'll get into it more, but Green Arrow and Black Canary are like they're my guilty pleasure couple. In real life, I would be like, both of you need to go to therapy for a very long time before you can be together. But on page, I'm like, I'm obsessed with this. Give me more. So I had a great time with it. I had a great time rereading it, but I did think of Kristen often because I do think so much of what I appreciate is like that it's this big story and that it really relies too on the Arrow family and the like. And so it helps when you have a little bit of connection to the characters to build that. So those are my overall thoughts. And now the sour, maybe. We'll see.
I'm like, where do I begin?
Oh no.
We could give a little taste and then we can go sort of like, this was easier to kind of go act by act.
Yeah.
So we can more easily break it up that way.
Well, broadly, I feel like I was kind of thrown off, and not thrown off, maybe. Kind of. This was called Green Arrow, Black Canary, right?
Yes.
You didn't get much of them really together.
No, not right away. No.
Not even overall. I mean, they were like, they're together in the book, but not much of like their relationship, really. It wasn't about that at all. Because even like toward the middle, kind of where they get back together, like, it's not about them at all. There's other things happening. It's about that. So I was like, this isn't a lovey-dovey book for me. There's one issue at the beginning with the wedding, right?
Yeah, and that is true. It's surprising, especially compared to other like duo books like Mr. and Mrs. X and Rogue and Gambit, which are very much like centered around those two. This is more of a Green Arrow family book than it is a couple book, except for the couple of bits that are like very much focused on them.
Yeah, so I think the title failed.
Fair.
We'll be writing a note to Judd Winnick.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Who no longer writes comic books for us. He writes for children, which I think is great for him. And he probably makes more money, but I'm forever sad because, again, he writes my people like nobody else does.
He writes good kids books, though. I've read some of those. They're really good.
Yeah?
Yeah, they're fun.
I'll
they're
have
fun
to
comics.
do it. I want to read his Real World comic book he did or whatever. Because he was on the Real World, which is wild. Anyways, not related. I don't need to bring that up every time I talk about Judd Winnick, but
it is actually related. I do want to share really quickly that Judd Winnick was the writer that revealed Mia was HIV positive.
Yeah.
And he did that
sort
of to honor Pedro and then kind of destigmatize. And we'll get into her like plot later and the conversation she has with one of our mutual favorite characters, it seems like from beforehand talking about him. But so it is connected because I think he really was inspired to destigmatize a little bit in this run.
So I guess going like kind of part by part, I do want to first talk about the first wedding issue, the one that's illustrated by Amanda Cotter. That is jam-packed of like superhero DC cameos, which is really fun for anybody who's like read it for a long time, because you're picking these people out. But even if you haven't, I think like it's so comical and fun to see this sort of like mockumentary style almost. Very much like my last night's read of people kind of going back and forth, like Jessica was saying, where they're just like having their reactions to the wedding invitation and kind of them talking about their wedding also, you know, how they're both like, I don't want to have to dress up. I know we have to be in our costume so our friends can be there. Which this storyline, because of the way it plays out, I kept thinking about Runaway Bride, which I know is the most girly thing I could say because of the way that the second wedding happens later, right? Because the first one doesn't quite go as planned. But you can't, I think superheroes need to learn, you can't have a superhero wedding and expect it not to be broken up, which is very sad because you can't have a superhero funeral, which even Clark was like Superman was like, oh man, I'm just really excited we can all be together. And it's not a funeral. Yeah. This is great. And Diana's like, no, listen, you can't. You're doing it right, Clark, by being with Lois, because she's not exactly a super-powered person. She's not in the crew. So, like, you at least have an oasis there. You have, like, some safety. But, like, they don't have that. They're in the middle of this always. But I also think what they don't understand is, like, Green Arrow and Black Canary is such a different couple from, like, the wholesome Lois and Clark. Because they are, like I said to you guys before the show, to me, they're like a biker couple because they're like very hot and heavy, but they also argue and they're not exactly emotionally mature sometimes, either of them. And unlike Batman, who's very like, you know, the solemn playboy, you have Ollie, who is very much just says whatever's on his mind kind of dude. So even though he has the same background as being like a rich playboy or whatever, who's like also a vigilante, it's a very different scenario than Batman, like personality-wise. But I had a lot of fun with that first issue. But yeah, I was very worried for anybody reading this like for the first time. There was a lot happening here. And you may have a knowledge of some of the DC characters, but the rest of them, even if you're reading it like you know these characters, you may not know who is who either. And without the costume on. Because some people look so similar in this time period, it is hard to tell them apart. Even like for me with Roy, sometimes Roy looks like other people. And so I can always tell who he is in this part.
And like the fatal flaw or whatever is that they invite Snapper Carr, which to me is like hilarious, you know?
Having, like that guy's an idiot.
Him be the butt of the joke all the time. But yeah, if you're not familiar with Snapper Carr, you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of mean. They're calling this guy an idiot. But to me, it's like, yeah, that's your fatal flaw. That's not great. It's not going to work out well.
Yeah. And a very typical scenario, because like, why'd you invite Snapper? He's an idiot. Like, yeah, but he's an idiot, so it's fine. But of course, because he's an idiot, the supervillains immediately get the invitation and crash the party. No one should be surprised. You should have better security. Like, how they get through Zatanna's defenses. Maybe have more than just Zatanna's defenses. Like, and of course, Green Arrow gets spirited away, right? Replaced by Everyman. Which, how many people in DC can make themselves look like other people? Because I never heard of Everyman until this. But like, there's a ton of people that can look like other people.
It's a convenient power to have.
It is a convenient power. So
I down for the DNA too.
Yeah, that's the, and I really liked the team up. Was it Dr. Midnight that was with?
Yeah, Dr. Midnight.
Batman. That was fun to see him. That's another thing about this
everyone watched Stargirl, so we can talk about Dr. Midnight.
Yes. Please. This run pulls people from different pockets of the DC universe too. That's one thing I did really like. Like you don't necessarily see those two teaming up, but it makes total sense in their sort of detective role, and so I really liked that bit of things.
So we get to the end of the wedding night, and something happens where all of a sudden Ollie just attacks Dinah, and we figure out why later. And so she just has to stab an arrow in his throat.
As
alarming.
As you do.
And so then we go into the I guess I have the Wikipedia open, so I'm going to awkwardly refer to the arc names. We have the Dead Again arc, where she's like, shit, I murdered him. That's definitely not him, though. And she has to argue. They're like, no, listen, it wasn't him.
Because Ollie has died before too, which they do reference. Like in the first issue, I think they do like that little, I guess montage is the best word for it, like a panel by panel montage of like highlights and frankly lowlights of their relationship as well. Obviously, one lowlight being Ollie dying at one point, and then Dinah says, "I knew that he was dead then, like I could feel it." And this time, nobody believes her, but she's like, "He's not dead. I don't feel it this time. It's totally different." But
I did skip ahead and not talk about the Bachelor and Bachelorette parties. That's a disservice to the comic book. I love those. Anyways, wanted to mention that real quick. I really love those scenes. They're full of cameos. But to get back to the dead again, I guess we can go ahead and talk about that. So like that whole scenario where she's trying to figure out, where he is. No one believes her until she talks to Batman, who finally is like, no, I believe you. Mm-hmm. And then they find out about
he didn't want to come to the wedding, but he believes her, and that's what matters.
And she inevitably figures out that the Amazons captured him.
Yes.
Because they wanted her to help train their women to like fight in the real world and like interact in the real world. And it was just like, no, we're going to send another guy and you just wouldn't notice for a month. But then that guy, which is very funny and weird, it's a plot line I never thought I'd see. He couldn't perform sexually.
Yes.
So he panicked and was like, well, I guess I'll just kill her, which is very serial killer of him. But that's how it turned out because he couldn't perform the wedding night, which is not a plot line I'd ever thought I'd read in a comic book.
But it makes sense for them because, as you recall, they have this cycle at the beginning where it's like constantly solving their problems with sex. And then before the wedding, she's like, we're actually not going to do that. We're going to like take a break or whatever.
They're always doing
it. He should be ready by that time, and he's not. So it's like
as far as all the comic book characters in DC, Ollie and Dinah are always getting down. And second would be Rory Harper and whoever. But it's Ollie's first. So I guess thoughts about this, or we can just do overall thoughts, whichever. But I was thinking maybe easier to do arcs by arc. But how did you feel, Kristen? I feel bad because like this is vote on, and there's so much here. Inevitably, once you read more DC, this will be easier. But like, this is like a different era of DC that's harder to jump into if you haven't read stuff. So like if you read New 52, you get it because it's like fresh, it's reborn. Same with Rebirth, but like before that, there's just a lot happening. It's like jumping into like Marvel stuff. And I don't know everybody, which now I have a better idea of. So I can very much sympathize with what maybe you walked into.
I feel like I definitely didn't know Mia's name until the middle of the book. Yeah. So stuff like that, I was like, come on, like you're supposed to make these sort of things friendly for new readers. But when I don't even know this girl's name, like I don't know what's happening. Never seen her in my life. She could be anyone. Apparently her name's Mia. Found that out in the middle. I was just like, really, y'all? What are we doing here? So I felt that.
Well, I think this is the first time I know I must have seen her in other things, but I didn't have any knowledge of Mia, aka Speedy, before this.
She has a great arc in that Meltzer Winnick that kind of Green Arrow run right before this. So definitely if people liked her, that's a great place to start.
I am very interested because I did like her back and forth and like her defending herself. Oh yeah, because they show up to Themyscira, and I am ashamed of my I know it wasn't actually them, right? But at first I was so ashamed of the Amazons, my girls, my women, because they're like, oh, you. Well, you're dirty and like whatever. And she's like, hey, listen, I had to do those things to survive. And and I have HIV that has no standing on my person. So like, screw you guys, which is a very interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, that felt a little out of
the Amazons because I would have been really sad.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it felt very off at first, for sure. I also loved that. I do think that I agree about the biker gang thing, and I think that they're equally biker gangy because I loved that Ollie's comment when he's caught is not like, my best friend Hal is going to break me out, or Batman's going to break me out. He's like, my wife's going to be real mad about this. He has so much confidence.
My wife's
going to
have a word with you.
Yeah, I love the confidence they have in one another for sure.
Yeah. And then we also have, again, I'm very sad Rory Harper wasn't a part of this, but he brings Connor and Speedy to help out. And I'm sure that Roy's busy. He's got stuff. I think he's got his daughter by now. I don't remember. No.
I literally have no clue.
Well.
He's off on an adventure.
So they go to like save him from the Amazons, and turns out the Amazons are being run by Granny Goodness. Which luckily both of you will have knowledge of, because I know we all read Mr. Miracle. She's the old lady who...
We didn't all like it. No, I read it. We didn't all like it.
I know.
No, that's fine. So I don't remember that at all.
You needed some kind of like Percocet or something after reading that. It's quite sad.
It's rough.
It's quite sad.
Yeah, but it's our typical Tom King doesn't know how to write people that probably should go to therapy.
I'm just still mad there wasn't a trigger warning, but anyway.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's very true.
Like right at the beginning, just come on.
Just like a tad bit.
Yeah.
I'm a Tom King apologist, but I agree. That's a thoughtful consideration that should have been made for sure.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. I feel like I'm just jumping around.
And my problem is I just made little notes.
You know what? Maybe it's easier just to get into
notes.
Your little notes.
Do you want my negative notes?
I do want your negative notes.
Positive notes?
Oh no, an unfortunate adjective. Negative. Okay.
Okay, so the guy who we all are talking about is clearly a Gambit ripoff, right?
Big Gambit energy. Dodger, the English
Dodger.
I assumed he was just introduced into this. That's what it felt like, right?
I literally I don't know that man. I don't know this
I've
man.
never seen him in my life.
Well, I called him Walmart Gambit the entire time.
Yes.
He is Walmart Gambit.
He was just Gambit, but not as good. Okay. So he's Walmart Gambit. He had this line. Hold on, I took a picture of it.
Oh,
I should have sent you the... So there's a moment, where he's hitting on Mia.
Yeah.
And real strong. And he's like, I want a date. Like, let's go on a date. And they go on a date. And they're flirting back and forth. And he says something about, actually, I didn't get the whole page, but he says something like, the night's young. And she was like, I am too.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And he was like, not too young for me, or something like that. And then he says, I'm 22. I thought all you American high school kids liked dating university blokes.
I just want to say, if you don't know we're talking,
highlight.
This man, this is the man. That's the man right there. I mean, that is, and then at one point he's with this guy, and they have the same trench coat. I don't know, like what
they did. You're right.
They're like, Gambit has opened a shop somewhere, and these men are his patrons.
Oh, absolutely,
yes,
absolutely. This dude, Rose.
Like, well, but in that moment for me, because I am not familiar with Mia, I was like, oh my god, she's in a high school, and
is she in high school then? I do not know this girl's life.
We learn her age a little bit later, which I'll get to. But yeah, he said, you American high school kids. He called her a high school kid. And then she points out he's not in university. He's just a thief. But like,
great fashion sense.
That creeped me out. I was already kind of creeped out by this guy on her. And also 22. No. 22? Did you all look at him and you were like, he's 22?
Was he an English royal? Because those people have an illegal tie.
Well, that's true.
It's one of those things where I immediately go back to, it was the time. But at some point, I have to stop saying that because this was like 2007.
2007? Yeah, it's gross. So later on, Green Arrow's freaking out about her dating him. And he's like, she's 13, and Black Canary's like, she's 18. So they decided to make it clear that even though apparently she's in high school, according to this guy, she's 18. Still gross. Didn't like it.
I mean, you can't. I would not be like. you can't trust a guy with a soul patch and a trench coat in the late 2000s.
No.
That guy's still hanging out with high schoolers, you know?
Get out of here.
Listen, let's just give Dodger this one compliment. Well, two, because his coat, of course. But the second compliment, he did handle the HIV positive thing very well. And that was like an important page, I think, for people to see. Was it a little bit problematic in every other way? Absolutely. Absolutely. But you will never, I said I liked a Black Canary and Green Arrow, not I loved Dodger, who I just was reacquainted with recently.
Well, but I will say, you know, to hear you talk about the fact that this whole storyline with her being HIV positive was previously mentioned. For me, this was the first time I'm hearing it. So it felt like it was just like, here's a thing for weirdly no reason, and they just met. Here you go.
Yeah.
And then it kept going, and I'm like, what was that? Like, because I think it is a really important thing we don't see enough. It should be talked about. Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
But this didn't do justice in these 14 issues. Not at all.
You know, isn't it interesting? I didn't think about this till just now, but I feel like out of all like the DC families, because we have the Amazon family, we have the Bat family, the Super family, it's the Green Arrow family that's really like, no, we're gonna give our people like real problems.
Absolutely.
I never thought about that because, like, you know, you've got Roy, who's like, you know, a recovered addict. You've got Mia, you know, who, you know, used to be in like almost kind of forced sex work to survive. And with HIV positive, it's very different.
Oh, Jaden.
I guess you could say Dodger's trying to dodge some cases.
Yeah.
He is dodgy, so.
I think though, Maddie, you make a great point. I'm gonna be the sweet to the sour here for a second, because one thing also I don't think that they could have spent more time on in those initial panels is in the Longbow Hunters saga, which is another like really
that was good too.
Good exploration of Green Arrow and Black Canary as individuals, but also their relationships. But there's a really key scene where Ollie really wants to start a family. The hilarity, of course, in this
that
one, he's got kids everywhere. Everywhere he's got kids, but he's wanting to make it official. He thinks this is a way to move forward in his life. And Black Canary says something to the effect of like, because of the career and the life that they live, she's like, I don't want to make more orphans. She really doesn't want to bring life into this world that she can't take care of, which is really thoughtful. And one thing about this run and the Arrow family overall is they do take all these people and they really build a family, and they are people with real problems, but they're there for each other in big ways. And I think that is one thing that I really love about them. So while Green Arrow and Black Canary are not, you're totally correct. I didn't even think about that. They're not really in a lot of scenes together in this run. The theme of like things coming full circle for them, especially in this idea of like starting a family together and like what it means to be a family, is really present. So I did really like that theme throughout the book for sure. Okay, more sour.
Okay. I will say though, like this next bit, you know, like them going after Connor and him having these talks with Connor, because like everything, they get caught up together again, but then Connor is attacked and is sent into a coma. I really like that whole bit, unfortunately for Connor, but I really like this, the conversations that were had in that section from Ollie talking to Connor, like in a coma, like apologetically. And we get more image of like, because I don't have a lot of knowledge about Connor. I knew the whole, like, he had him, like, he wasn't involved in his life. But I really enjoyed that whole picture of him with Connor. And, like, how apologetic he was. Now, Connor already knew and kind of forgave him, and that back and forth was very sweet. The downside, because again, story-wise, I think this is my favorite part of this, besides the, like, impromptu wedding that they have, but I do want to talk about, because that's related to Runaway Bride. Because they had their kind of wedding.
Yeah.
But talk about the Connor bit. I really love the writing in there, like the closeness he has to him, and like a very real way of him being like, I knew and I wasn't the right person yet. I wasn't ready yet. And everyone else be like, listen, he knows. It's okay. But the art in this section is a little bit iffy because, you know, I think if this was done now, it'd be a little bit different. But Connor's mother is Black. She's a Black woman. And so in the earlier panels of seeing Connor, he is obviously dark-skinned. He's very apparent that he is a mixed son of Ollie's. But then at some point, we reach a point where they show like young Connor and then adult Connor still, and he is as white as could be.
So this is.
Let me highlight you.
Let me see if I can get it. This is, I don't know why he's wearing a snow cap in this scene, but this is him kind of walking with his mom. That's his mom.
Yeah.
And then he only becomes lighter skinned as an adult. I'm trying to find one.
It's odd because like Ollie shows a picture of him getting Connor from like the monastery or whatever. And he's very obviously darker skinned. And they show a flashback to when Connor's very, very young. I'm like, that kid is all the way white. They just like forgot.
What's weird too is like, you know, because there is an artist change throughout like the middle.
Yes.
But that was like in the same issue, right? So it's like you didn't even get that part right. And with an artist change, they should still like have those files and be able to just recreate that.
Yeah.
For the end, when you see him as an adult, he looked totally different too. And it was
and not that it's very common for like, you know, mixed children or even just like full-blooded children to with their genes that have a very different appearance, a very lighter appearance to their parents. That's not unusual. But for it to have no consistency, it's like they were just like, and I shouldn't say at the time, I think you don't have an excuse at that time, but like, they were like, oh, we don't know how to draw this. And so they were just like, he's got very blonde hair and he just looks exactly the same. And you're like, it's very cool that he's mixed. I feel like that was just like dropped. Like, no.
Yeah, and the inconsistency is like even more problematic when you think about the fact that it only makes him look more like Roy, which you were talking about earlier, some of the characters looking similar. So it's like, it just makes no sense, and there's really honestly no excuse for it. So yeah, I totally agree for sure.
Coloring for POC characters is always inconsistent in comics, both Marvel and DC. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I feel like there's a lot of improvement in recent years with like, you know, everybody's always like, it doesn't matter what you look like as long as you're good. It does matter. Having representation does account for people being represented accurately in comic books. But like, it was bad. It was real bad before.
Yes, it was rough. And the Santa Claus hat was also a crime. Why? Why was he wearing that?
Well, and just like so our tendency to like lighten skin for no reason.
Yeah.
Like just admit that you don't know how to to like illustrate POC characters, but
what's sad is like you just copy paste a color. Like that's not
it's
actually really easy to color these people. Like, you know, use the eyedropper tool on the old.
It reminds me of every like TikTok about an artist ever. They're like, hey, let me just show you. Let me go to this like artist, this character's exact like official artwork. There, you did it. Wasn't that hard?
Easy.
Yeah.
Connor's got that reverse Michael Jackson. He's got something. He's like a shapeshifter, you know? It just constantly changes.
He really is. He really is.
I hope that if they bring him back now, they have a more appreciation of what he should actually look like.
Yeah, definitely. That hospital scene too, I think is also when one of my favorite moments. Dinah proposes to Ollie.
Oh, let's talk about it.
I think so. I think she feels that closeness in that moment. She's like, we didn't get our wedding, and she proposes to him. And I also loved that. I love a devil proposal. It's like a Hallmark movie.
Well, it was sweet too. He's like, oh, no. And she's like, no, but I know you weren't actually there. He's like, yeah, but we have to dress up in these costumes all over again. She's like, no, let's do it the way we would want to do it. Let's just have our closest people there. I know this isn't the best time, but when is it going to happen? And I thought it was very sweet to have Wonder Woman be the one to officiate. And then you have both Batman is there and Superman is there just guarding it to make sure it happens. And like that was really sweet. And Batman, that dork, I would be at the wedding, but he's there anyways. This emotionally immature dork, I love him. This is the real really Batman. This loser, I love him.
I also love that they were plain clothes.
For you, Jessica's articulation of themes is really concise and incisive. Y'all have a great dynamic.
Oh, thanks, Lee.
High praise. I feel like a mess jumping through this, so I'm glad people are enjoying it.
The plot is a mess, though, because we did talk about Granny Goodness, and I would like everyone to know she never returns. And that plot goes absolutely nowhere, which was real sad for me, because I'm like, ooh, Granny Goodness. And I had read this before, and still forgot she never comes back.
Well, yeah, and then the whole League of Assassins thing, like, actually it wasn't the League of Assassins.
It's the League of Shadows, the Shadow League. They got to get better branding.
They really do. They basically were like, no, we're going to call ourselves League of Assassins. And then they had to actually call up Ra's al Ghul. And he was like,
that was the best.
No, it ain't me, though. Like, and Plastic Man is there because...
You know something about replicating DNA. Very unclear.
I'm not into Plastic Man. I think I just accepted.
One of my points was Plastic Man sucks. Look, this is my only experience with Plastic Man, and I hated it. And I was like, this guy's the worst. So I don't understand it. Don't get it. Everyone in the chat's gonna hate me. It's fine. I like it.
Listen, I think
this whole moment didn't like it.
He's gross. Even in the cartoon, Plastic Man's gross. Elongated Man, though, that's a man I can get behind. Their powers are very similar. He just can't stretch as far or put he can't like Plastic Man can really pull himself into any shape. Elongated Man can't. But Elongated Man, that's a man for the people, you know?
That's a good relationship. That's a
God. Elongated Man and Sue Dimney, what a couple. They're in love. They're just
But Kristen, I think you're safe. There's no real I've never met a Plastic Man stan in my life before.
No.
never met one.
They're around.
Well, and honestly, they very rarely use him. I don't think I see him ever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank God.
People were going on about some recent book that came out of his, so I was just like, someone's gonna hate me in the chat. I don't know. But
no, he's gross.
Didn't love it.
I don't want to ever interact with him. Like if this was like a real life thing.
Yeah, don't let him near me.
Yeah, I would be like, no, this man's an offender. No. No.
He offends me with existing.
Absolutely. Hayden said none of them hold a candle a Kite Man. That's true.
Yes, absolutely. Hell yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where this all ended. But
oh, well, the big twist at the end is that actually Shadow, out of nowhere, is actually a very key figure because Shadow and Ollie's son, because Ollie does have 1 million kids, Robert, has leukemia, which is awful for sure. And so she makes a deal. Is it with Dr. Savannah, who is not
Dr. Savannah,
a villain I had a lot of familiarity with at all. And she's like, my son has leukemia. I need you to cure him. And he's like, well, I'll make a deal. And that's when he wants, he's actually the one that set the plot in motion. So Shadow in the last 3 issues, it actually is kind of her the whole time.
And she's very cool. I forgot. So basically Mia Speedy isn't a thing right now. It's Shadow's daughter, Emiko, who's Arrowhead.
Yes.
Which is way cooler.
Yeah.
Man, comics are complicated.
They
That's
are.
tough for people.
And to add to the soap opera drama, when they do go in there, because Shadow's like, hey, here's the deal. And they're like, get us in there. They go in there, they fight a bunch of replicas. And then one of the side effects, for no reason whatsoever, is that Robert is aged up several years. He's now suddenly a teenager. Yeah. No explanation. But that's why we love comics. This is the biggest family soap opera.
Yeah, I think Connor is still in a coma at that time. Because he gets kidnapped because he's in a coma and then they steal his body.
Correct.
And then they have to go get him.
Yeah.
They've stolen Connor, and also in custody is Robert. And then also that's who's in custody at this point. Yeah. And they brainwash Connor.
Yeah,
There was a lot of hand waviness in the end. Yeah.
Oliver Queen has more kids than Wanda Maximoff has traumatic events. Yeah. They have retconned a lot of that stuff when they rebooted it to make it a little more streamlined. And I think to make Oliver a little less shitty. But yeah, that's the most of it. I do agree because this is my first time reading it. I thought this would be more of a Rogue Gambit sort of team up sort of series, which is not what this is. So if you're going into this, do not just it's good to know what you're getting to. Not that it's bad, just know that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
This is definitely not my favorite of Green Arrow runs. I think there's bits and pieces I really like. I think it's very discombobulated. So if you're a fan of like the Green Arrow family, it's worth it. I will say that like this would not be something I'd recommend to somebody as their first kind of jump into Green Arrow's family or anything, because like one, it's all over the place, and two, I really loved Winnick, but I think you're not getting the typical Winnick dedication to character development and time together that you would get in other Winnick books. Like, once again, Outsiders. Let me just.
This is now an Outsiders episode. It has shifted. If
it's so good.
That was my biggest issue with it, though, is like I felt like as someone brand new, you know, if you already have established, you know, character development in other runs you've read, you care about everything that's happening more. And I felt like I didn't get to know anyone. I didn't get to care. I didn't even get to know their relationship together. You know, it was just like they're getting married and then he's dead. And then it was kind of a tragedy train too, right? Because like he kills him and then he's dead for a while. And then his son gets maybe killed. And like, there's like, I'm like,
yeah,
stop. And that's very soap opera too. But it's like, here you go. Yes. This is nonstop. And I'm like, okay, but it felt like a lot of action. And I wanted it to slow down and like make me care about these people and the things that are happening, you know?
Absolutely.
It feels like a bow to tie up what came before it, for sure. So yeah, if you hadn't read what came before it, I think that's frustrating. The one thing I do like about you were making a good contrast earlier, Maddie, about Green Arrow and Batman. I'm not going to talk a lot about Batman because there are some stands for sure. But Batman books are also a lot of grief, right? And a lot of family. But where Batman pulls away very often, not always, and he's made growth, I'll give credit where credit is due. You don't see that as much with Ollie. He always comes back. And that is one thing I really like is like, yeah, they're like sex to solve problems. It's not great. And like, it's a little over the top sometimes, but they really love each other. And he just loves life. And he, in the end, when they're laying in bed together, he's like, I just want a happy ending. Like double entendre later on, but I just want a happy ending, you know, for everybody I love. And I did really love that too. But I do totally agree that I would never hand this to somebody who had not read Green Arrow. So sorry, Kristen.
I do want to make up for this and like have you read a different Green Arrow sometime this year, because Rebirth is really good. There's something so special about that family that's very different than the rest of them. And I think a lot of that is that you don't have a big superhero group, and you also don't have like again, like Batman is so trauma heavy. That's why I like Batman Family, because you have a little bit of lightness. Green Arrow Family is way more lightness. And they go through some tough stuff. Like, again, Rory Harper's an addict, a recovering addict. He has a child who dies. He loses his arm. A lot happens to this poor man. But the way that they all interact together is very differently. You know, whereas, yeah, like where you said, like Batman retreats, Ollie gets really mad and immediately does something, which is very different. What's the best intro to Green Arrow? That's hard. I think the beginning part of New 52 is good. I think if you want this dynamic, Green Arrow Rebirth is a fine start. This is where I started. That Kevin Smith run is also great, like Jessica mentioned. Any of those kinds of books, I think, are a good intro to the character. And all the side books about other people, part of that group, are great. Like Batgirl and the Batgirl and Birds of Prey is a great Black Canary book, actually. Roy, the anti-Dick in a sense. I mean, yeah, there's a reason why he and Jay are best friends. So let's go ahead and do our rating, or if you have any more like notes to bring up. I feel like I'm just rambling.
I did have two. Sorry.
Oh yeah, go Kristen. No, mine's positive, so you go first.
Okay. Just two random points, and we, you know, Maddie, you kind of touched on this, but I felt like every dude that wasn't like the main dudes looked the same, and that was a consistent problem that confused me as someone who doesn't know anyone's name.
Especially when they're not in costume at the bachelor party. I know that's Hal, but there's no way anyone else would know that was Hal.
Yeah, no clue, no idea. Also, one thing that just consistently bugged me is I kept waiting for Black Canary to use her power, and it never happened.
It's a good point.
You know,
we talked about it, but she didn't use it.
I know. I was like, what? She just hit some dudes, which is cool, but like, I wanted to see it, and it never happened the whole time.
There have been points, and I really, this is not my strong suit at all, but there have been points in her history where the Canary Cry is actually not really a part of her set. She's more just like a jujitsu. Actually, Lee's going to correct me if he's still here, if that's the wrong fighting style. But she's more of a street level fighter without abilities. But so I don't know where. I cannot remember. I don't think that applies here because I can see the cover of one of the later parts of this run, and she's using it. So, but I think that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
So jump into ratings. As far as like all of my Arrow family stuff goes of what I've read, I'm leaning towards like a 6 in this because I do feel like it's kind of all over the place. I think if I didn't already have knowledge of Green Arrow and the family and was already like attached, it'd probably be lower for me compared to other books, which is hard because I will once again say that Winnick is one of my top 5 comic book writers personally, but I'm leaning towards like a 6. And you all know.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Well, I think my ranking won't be fair, right? Mm-hmm. Like just because like I don't have the basis to like, you know, I can rank this for someone brand new. I don't think it's good for someone brand new.
Well, and I think you rate it for you because, you know, eventually it's like some stuff I've rated that like later I have a better understanding of characters. So this is almost like a, like think of it like a scrapbook for us. So like right now you have not a lot of knowledge of a thing. So maybe come back later and you'll feel differently. I know that I'm always going to feel the same way about Dark Phoenix Saga, but.
Wow.
I found it very hard to care when it wasn't the tools to care weren't given to me on the page.
Absolutely.
You know, so I didn't love it. I feel like I don't want to put a number to that. I just didn't love it. You know,
that's fine. You know what? No, there's no shame.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is not the best Green Arrow story at all. Mm-mm. And that is okay. Now we all know.
I do want to say Gabriel answered the question that we had earlier about, or my question with a terrible memory. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really meant for brand new readers. I feel like a Green Arrow family love letter. Absolutely. I do feel like some of the best like Green Arrow family books have been the one-offs that I've read in the past like 5 years from DC. Like some of the stuff that's in the Green Arrow Rebirth as well as those like annuals. The Green Arrow annuals to me are like the best Green Arrow stories, especially when it's like Christmas or a holiday. Those are my favorite.
Love a holiday issue.
Jessica.
Yeah, I also just want to say I did really like the consistency of the art. I totally see what everyone's saying about people looking the same. I also think that just happens in this era a lot. So I guess I have a little bit of grace for that. But they do switch artists, and frankly they maintain a good tone and like consistency, and that is one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't care how great something is, when the art changes really drastically, I hate that. And the only time that happens,
we understand.
Yeah, and I will say I think that personally the artist changed to Mike Norton. I think he did way better, even though it was just sliding. It was a similar tone to Cliff Chang, and I love Cliff Chang and like Paper Girls. Love his art.
The art's very different than from
and that was his early stuff, right? So I didn't love it in this, but I think Mike Norton did better than Cliff Chang. So that artist change was good.
Yeah, and they did when they did change a little bit tonally, like for these flashbacks or whatever.
How
that was
cute
cool.
the flashbacks were so cute.
They were so cute. I loved that. So
more flashbacks.
Plus, we got this awesome Barda in the strip club.
I know, that's my favorite.
Love that. That was a great post. So for me, it's like probably like a 7 or a 7.5. I love themes. Wedding is a theme. I'm a sucker for themes, and I just had a lot of fun with it. But I will validate everything Kristen said is 100% accurate. So even with all of that, it's something I really love, and it does continue, and I need desperately for people to buy that thick trade because I need this in a bind up because they're rough copies. They're like library ones I bought.
Yeah, and they're not numbered.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
This is frustrating.
This is beautiful and concise, and I just want one more.
It's a nice chunker.
So around 7.5 probably.
So to catch up on some of the chat about Black Canary, she loses her powers in Longbow Hunters, but gets it back by middle-late Birds of Prey.
Yes, thank you.
All heroes are one of a bit, but too much. But the archer heroes really drive home committed to the bit. My man has a big old boxing glove arrow, for Christ's sake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? They have to have something a little bit extra because you can't sell archers in like same realm as like other actual superheroes. I mean, the fact that Batman was like, okay, I have a plan for all of the Justice League members if they go evil, but I don't have a plan for Ollie, so I'm just not worried about it. How rude.
Yes.
He's like, nah, I don't care about Ollie, though.
Yes.
Love it. No clue what style Black Canary uses. I'm not sure they really define that for most supers. I don't know what these acronyms mean.
Lee just thought we were way smarter than we actually are.
PJJ or JJJ. 7/10, a solid and pretty wholesome read. Dodgers should probably be investigating. He seems like the type of person to unironically dab after beating someone. Yeah. Best DC romance.
Let's talk about it.
I mean, it's Lois and Clark. That's the romance. I have my favorite romances, but
yeah, tell us what yours are though.
It's Roy and Donna because they never let me have it. Okay. Personally. I'm also a fan of the very platonic but sexual relationship between Roy and Starfire. People dog on her for that, but like that's the most like regular relationship out of anything.
I ship that. I support you. Yeah.
What about you? What's your best DC romance? Well, actually, I think I have an idea, but go ahead.
You do. I agree that Lois and Clark are the most. Okay, yeah, it is. No, well, Renee and Kate are pretty high up there, yeah, for me. Yeah. But actually, the one I love the most that like literally makes me cry is Swamp Thing and Abby Arcane.
Oh God, yeah, they're so in love.
I have that a little art on my shelf, and I look at it all the time, and it makes me so happy. Man. And then special shout out to actually the couple that got me into comics when I was a youth, Wally and Linda. Underrated. I found their wedding issue. It was one of the first comics I ever owned, and they had scribbling on it. And as an adult, I learned, oh, hey, Mark Waid actually signed that comic that I bought for like 50 cents. Real? That's his real signature. Yes. So that's awesome. One of my prized possessions. So those are some of my faves for sure.
Actually, I should say Ralph and Sue Dibney because I think there's an issue in Identity Crisis. I know Identity Crisis is what it is, but there's a page that made me fall in love with him before I even read anything. It's the reason I love Elongated Man. And I've talked about it in the show before, but he's talking about Sue, and he's like, you know, Sue has always been around the Justice League. She's always hanging out, helping out. And she has seen Clark's piercing blue eyes. She has seen how handsome Flash is. She's seen the coolness of Batman, right? But she loves me. And that gets me every time. Because Elongated Man is a total, like, doobie-looking dude, right? But the love she has for him over all these guys that would be, like, the typical, like, you know, hunks. Right? It's like meeting all the Avengers, but deciding to go for, like, Ralph Boner instead. You know, that's a WandaVision reference. That's a good one too. Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, my girl, Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy.
Yes, James.
Elliot said Roy in Cheshire, which is very unhealthy, but very steamy. JJ Joe said.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Lois and Clark, I mean, that relationship makes her the most powerful woman in the DCU. Lois and Clark, Ralph and Sue, Arthur and Mara, Ollie and Diana, Jason and Artemis.
Arthur and Mara, I totally agree with you. Yes, that's a good one.
Greer and the Grifter, they deserve each other in high chaos, high trauma action for good comics plus fire. So, it's open question time. What's up? What's everybody reading? What's up with everybody? I think everyone should lift Kristen's spirits after this, and let's find some non-DC questions. Would be great.
Well, hey, you know what, though? I agree with Jessica, Swamp Thing, and Abby. I'm with you there.
Yes. Now, have you read Alan Moore or just New 52? I can't remember. Okay.
Yeah. But I liked it.
Alan Moore it's something so beautiful and like
it's so beautiful.
And it's weirdly sexy and like touching, even though it's so psychedelic. I think it's like Lovecraftian romance. And as someone who's a monster lover, let's just admit it, I am. That book is made for me. I'm not going to play.
Admitting it. You are.
I am. I really love A Shape of Water, and we all know why. Also, I love Beauty and the Beast. We all know why. I'm not a furry, but I love a monster romance. I'm not a furry. Everyone in the chat.
Very defensive.
Yes. Just saying. I'll say one thing. Kyle Rayner has the worst relationships in all the TCEU. None of them stick.
Yeah.
Kyle doesn't get a break. He doesn't get to have Donna either. That's for Roy. Okay? The end. If you could bring one DC character back from death or irrelevancy, who would it be? Duh. I mean, they already brought him back, but he's still irrelevant. Rory Harper. Absolutely all the time. Thank you. I rest my case.
I would second that. I'm also, I feel like I don't lose sleep as much as you, but it does make me deeply upset the way they've treated Wally West. He's dead. He's inconsistent. Yeah. It's all that.
A murderer.
I think they need like a road trip book where they're just living life, thriving, doing really well, away from the hands of any destructive writer, just living their best life.
Elliot says Buffy and Riley are the best.
Elliot's trying to make me commit a crime over here.
Kristen, who's your favorite Buffy romance, like in the show?
There we go.
You know, it's difficult. It's difficult and complicated, isn't it? Because when you specifically talk about Buffy, the character, I think she, Angel and Cordy for life. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Cordy over Buffy and Angel all like forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there was problematic behavior with Spike, but people don't take into account how much he didn't have a soul during it, which I think is very important.
Yeah, and listen, you know, she's part of that. Okay.
You know, they have issues, okay, but he sought out a soul for her, and I think that's very important to remember. And continuing the relationship in the season comics, it was very sweet and great, and I think Maddie and I agree on that.
I'm a Buffy and Spike.
Yes.
Girl.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Xander didn't deserve Anya, so end of story.
It's so true.
Didn't deserve
her. Of course, Willow and Tara forever, but
God,
tragic forever as well.
My poor little heart. What a gay awakening and sadness I had.
Sad forever about it.
Oh my gosh. He's like the military guy, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was rough.
He was
awful. That was very rough.
I know people like Nightwing and Batgirl together, but I think he and Starfire make more sense. I absolutely agree. I think like Batgirl and Nightwing, they had this very sweet like first love sort of deal, but they don't make sense as partners in the long run. They're just not compatible in that way. I think they'll always love each other because they're first loves. They have like something so true in common. But he and Starfire, I think that is like the love of his life. And Batgirl, she'll find hers, whatever it is. But I don't think it's Dick Grayson. Also, Batgirl's got to be a little, right?
She's definitely an ally for sure. At the very least.
Yeah, she might just be an ally.
The behind the scenes photos for the Batgirl, is it a movie? Is it a miniseries? I'm so unclear what we're getting, but it does look like we are indeed getting whatever it is. But I think, is that supposed to be Nightwing in the behind the scenes? I think they were spotted together walking down a road, and I can't remember. I've stayed away from some of the casting news because I like refuse to believe any DC project is happening until like the trailer is in front of my eyeballs. So I am curious. Jaden, do you know if that's supposed to be Nightwing that they've cast?
Give us the deeds. I trust Jaden.
Help us.
I don't know what the yikes is about. That could be anything. Batgirl is only in love with justice. And she could be. I think like Batgirl's one of those characters that reminds me of my other favorite female characters that are very much focused on their job and not so much everything else that goes around. And honestly, I think Barbara's better with like a regular dude, a regular non-superhero dude, somebody who's relaxed. She needs someone she's a little high strung sometimes. She needs someone that's gonna like take care of the apartment and cook. You know, she's like a house husband. I think that's best. And you know what? Normalize superheroes having regular, boring partners.
Absolutely.
People they can come home to.
And whole miniseries we can read where they're just like making their HelloFresh meals together.
Yes.
Oh,
binge watching Netflix, going hiking, all the things.
Yes. She needs a himbo.
Absolutely.
You know what? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a chance, but last I checked, Dylan O'Brien was in talks to be Dick Grayson. Who's that?
Dylan O'Brien is the Maze Runner teen wolf guy.
Oh, you know what? Okay.
He's doing a lot. Good for him.
I'm all right with that.
I like that James is about to start a riot.
James. Everyone's attacking Kristen today. What is
People are trying to make me commit crimes over here. I don't appreciate it.
It's obviously Superman smashes a clam. Of course.
Actually, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Can we address the elephant in the room that is Alex Gomez's comment?
It's much like Buffy. I hate season 6, so that hurt the Buffy Spike relationship for me.
I have a lot of feelings about this.
Well, Once More with Feeling is on season 6, right?
Yes.
What's the best episode?
Two of my all-time favorite episodes are in season 6. It's like everybody forgets it from their brain when they're like, I hate season 6. And that's What's More with Feeling. And the one directly after, which is Tabula Rasa, where everybody loses their memory. They don't know who each other is.
Great episode.
It's so good and it's amazing. Yes, Buffy and Spike have a horrific relationship in season 6 that unfortunately has to happen so he can get on the journey to get Soul in season 7. I hate season 7 too. I love it. Okay, I have problems. We all do, but I love it still. I'm just saying. But nobody liked them being just like burning, like destroying buildings with their horrible relationship. Nobody liked that. I didn't like that. Yeah, no, thank you.
Hayden Yoshi Sudarso was cast as Dick Grayson something, but they got let go, which is such a bummer because he had campaigned a long time to be Nightwing, and he was getting into shape. It was this whole thing, but yeah, I forgot what the project was. It was like a Robin show or something, but they ended up not doing that. My cat is losing her mind, so I apologize.
I was wondering whose cat that was. They had strong Buffy feelings, whoever they were.
She does.
She's upstairs, but she would scream like that.
Pre-New 52 Dick and Babs during early Nightwing and Birds of Prey was really good. I would like to read some of that. That would be nice.
And Gabriel, is that I was going to say when we were talking, I agree. Starfire is like my preference for Nightwing, but there is a period where Babs is in her wheelchair. It's kind of in early days. And Nightwing is still like, I'm still interested in you. Like, I'm still wanting to pursue this relationship. And she really struggles with that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this cat love action on the Valentine's episode.
I know. She
love it. So I'm curious
like
if that's
most cats.
What you mean, Gabriel. I love it. Oh.
This is normal. She likes showing up when I'm filming videos, especially like any haul videos. She's just automatically there. Hi, Robin. Yeah, I'm doing a show. You want to be part of it? Who's your favorite DC character?
Who's your favorite Robin? Tell us.
Who's your favorite Robin?
My favorite Robin is Robin.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's the same time. And I love Dick Corey as well. I grew up with both couples. There's a lot to add to both. And I think like out of all the like legacy characters, man, Nightwing gets to have it all.
He really does.
The others just don't. Like, it's just not fair. My favorites aren't allowed to have anything, which makes me sad because it also means there's no merchandise, which is very upsetting because I look every once in a while at the Rory Harper tag on Twitter, or like I look on Etsy or whatever, and there is so much for like the Bat Boys, but there's never anything for the rest of my crew ever. I have to like scrounge for like Donna Troy anything.
I feel that.
Nightwing doesn't get to have alive parents. Who does? Barbara does.
If you're in comics, if you're in Disney, you can't have both parents alive. It's just the rule. We live in a society, and that's the rule.
No one gets to have parents. I guess Marvel people sometimes get to have parents, though.
Sometimes.
DC, they don't, or they come back and they're like, "Oh, I was an assassin the whole time."
I was the everyman.
Oh God, where'd it go? Why is it gone? The youngest Robin. What happened? Why is that name gone from my mind? Damian. Damian has both parents.
Oh, I was like, what? Yeah, that's true. Damian does have parents. And a bestie.
Yeah. Is everyone at home reading the Batman Family Adventures, the Wayne Family Adventures? Because Damian just got a friend. And he's asking everybody how to make friends. He's asking his whole family. And Jason says, I busted my best friend out of jail. And Rory Harper Twitter exploded. They're like, he's talking about Roy.
We need to convince that Webtoons creator to take our Wally and Roy hit the road story.
Yeah, let them read the next Green Lantern, Green Arrow. Which book I really want to read.
Yes,
so bad.
It's good. You should, yes.
Kamal Khan does have both parents.
That's fair, James. That's true.
Yeah. And they're very sweet in the Avengers video game.
Oh my gosh, I'm loving that.
My favorite Robin, all of them, but Jason Todd is fire. Man, Chris, I wish you lived here so we have a whole weekend where we just play the Guardians of the Galaxy game together because I know you both would love it so much. And also play the Avengers one so I can just cry about Kamala Khan the whole time.
It's very wholesome. It's very wholesome.
Ellie, you will? Will you be on the show? Will you read with me to be on the show? Can you also wear your Roy Harper costume? That'd be great. He's got 3. Because we dressed up as classic Teen Titans. What does this mean?
It's like...
Dick Grayson's the only OG Teen Titan who's absolutely thriving right now, right? They made Wally into ding-dang murderer. And then killed Roy. And then Roy's back as a Black Lantern, but also they were like, he's here, and then they just didn't do anything. Donna's going to be in the Amazon event.
I am so excited for that.
Me too.
So excited.
How do you feel about, did y'all hear about Joelle Jones tracing?
I heard you learn about it on air, and then I refused to keep reading because I was too sad.
I don't want to know anything about it. What was your thing about Babs, Kristen?
I have to privately tell you that.
Ooh, after the show?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't tell you that on air.
Oh, man, yeah, Garth. I always forget about...
He can come on the road trip. He's on the road trip. He's in the crew.
Yeah. I love Garth because his name is Garth. And so Ellie and I make fun of him all the time. That's Aquaman's sidekick. His name is Garth, Kristen. Garth.
Like Party On?
Like Party On. What a mouthful. Like, just saying Garth. Yes, I am from Atlantis. His name is Garth.
It's like in Game of Thrones, the Lannisters, they're like Tywin, Tyrion, there's like Kevin, and it's like, what were you doing, George R. R. Martin? Jar Jar, what were you doing?
Jar Jar.
You couldn't come up with anything? Kevin is what you chose? Kevin Lannister. Sad. Poor Kevin.
Oh, man. Yeah, this is fun, you guys. Jessica, are you going to come back and hang out again now that you've found the show?
Yeah, it was a good time. I'm happy to come back. Not when Elliot does Green Lantern, Green Arrow, but maybe another time.
Yeah, I still need to plan my March. So if anybody has any suggestions, my goals for this year, as I've talked about on Fangirls Assemble, where all the real reading goal work gets done, is to read some characters I haven't read stuff for, like Deadpool and Punisher.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I'm missing other characters I should be checking out. Like, what are the big stories I need to read that I haven't? You know what I mean? I don't even know. So, chat, if there's some stuff I don't know that I should read, please don't let it be a team book, though, because honestly, I hate them. I try. I try.
Hick Ventures, girl.
God, Hick Ventures killed me. It just destroyed me on the inside. And
It's
I will
hard.
preface Marvel Team Adventures. DC Team Adventures I like, but Marvel ones just don't work for me. I don't know why that is.
Oh, James has a great suggestion. And James and Maddie, I would read that with
let's
you.
do Moon Knight next month.
Yeah, because that's I really do want to get to that. I have to watch Oscar Isaacs.
Yeah.
It's the rules.
Fair. Yeah. We don't make the rules.
Yeah, we don't make them. We live in a society and we just follow them. Generally.
All right, Moon Knight it is. Talent. I think I've read some Talent, actually.
Yeah, I have to.
So listen to Pearl Jam. Someone make the art for that. Talent ends. So short read. Okay, I'll read Talent. I'll read Talent and Moon Knight. Done. Lee wants you to be a regular, Jessica. So
I'll learn more about. I'll do some research on fighting styles before I return because I want to recommend that we never told us what that meant. We still don't know.
He said Brazilian, and then another, and then J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh,
so either
okay.
she's
I must
Brazilian
have missed that.
Jiu-Jitsu
So sorry.
or J. Jonah Jameson.
I want to read like a martial arts kung fu book with Lee, and just be totally out of my depth. That's what I would like to do.
It's like Star Wars are all the names like Qui-Gon, Grubhub, Panini, Armadillo, and it's just.
Thank you for bringing back Grubhub. I totally forgot about that.
That's the best name for Grogu. It's so good. Little Grubhub.
Love it.
Oh man, we should all. I'll make. Okay, I gotta figure out a way to make us some matching T-shirts of like little Grogu. But he looks kind of derpy, and this says Grubhub.
Love that. Like slightly off.
Yeah, that can be our matching T-shirt.
I think your Canva skills are out.
I can make it happen.
You'll be great.
Right. Oh no, Garth is just down bad. He's not in any books. He's being bullied on the street.
He has to get on the road trip.
Are you gonna tell me that Beto O'Rourke isn't a Star Wars bounty hunter?
He definitely is. Texas is indeed
There's
another
no
planet.
way there's an Awkward Lad omnibus. Don't listen to Elliot. There's no way. Oh, I did just get Wolverine and the X-Men in today, so I can read that this year.
I still need to read that.
Well, we can read it
I'd
together.
read that with you. Yeah, I would love to.
Me.
Buddy read.
Yeah. And then there's a new Horizon comic coming out next month. I'll see if it's any good, and if it is, we can all read that, but I don't know if it's going to be good or not. I just want you both to play it real bad so I can talk about my wife.
Your bearded wife?
Yeah, my bearded wife.
I don't even go here, but I saw that and I was like, what's happening here?
How dare they? My beautiful angel. Rude.
Never seen a woman, that person. Never seen a woman.
There's a girl in the game who has a haircut like you, Kristen. So I can secretly have you be this character.
Oh. Just rename her me. Nice.
She's got that cute, like short hair with the long bang you got.
Oh, well, tell me about her.
And she's cute. I love her.
Oh, good.
Is that true, Rose? Is that true?
Like been diagnosed? Dr. Quinzel diagnosed?
Yeah, she did. She came by. She's like, Garth, let's get you on some meds. I feel
like she would do something like that out of the goodness of her own heart.
Yeah, that's what Heroes in Crisis should have been. It's just like an actual representation of everybody's mental illness. Because I would really love that.
I still haven't read it. I'm too afraid.
Don't do it. Just don't do it.
I have no intention.
Krista got to see in real time as I had a total breakdown. That and during the Batcat wedding. So.
Oh, that I did.
I should have saved those voice messages.
I am curious if you're reading or if anyone is reading. I'm like halfway through what's available anyways on DC Universe. The Batman Catwoman book that's going on.
I haven't read it yet. Is it good?
Well, first off, it's beautiful. I think it's very interesting.
Okay.
But it all depends on how it ends. Like, I'm so invested. Like, where is this going? It takes a lot of creativity. There's a lot of good themes, but I'm not sure it's going to stick the landing, and I'm terrified. Yeah.
I'll check it out. Because I canceled Comixology today, so I'll just have to read them DC and Marvel. But we'll save that for another chat. I'll save that. If you guys want to hear me rant about Comixology, join me and Kristen on Sunday on Omnibus Collectors Network at 11 o'clock after we finish talking about One Piece. I will be happy to dedicate some time to me being very aggravated about Comixology. Anyways, I know it's getting late, so we'll go ahead and call it there. Also, because I want to hear what Chris has to say about Babs. So, everyone, thank you so much for hanging out. I'll be back next Tuesday with Wicked and the Divine. The Wicked and Divine? Wicked and Divine.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure. I have to check with friends because it was going to be last week, but things happened. Or this past week. Or yesterday. I don't know. Anyways. Probably Wicked and Divine at some point next month. And some other things once I figure out what those are going to be. Anyways. Thank you, Jessica and Kristen, for hanging out. You have made my day a lot better. I greatly appreciate you both. And yeah, I hope everybody has a good night. I hope you all stay happy. And if you're not, it's okay. Just, we can all be upset together and we'll get through it. Feel your emotions. I can't end a show that way. Sorry, I cried a lot today. I don't need to tell you that either. Anyways, I hope you have a good day. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.